Okay, y'all. Brendan Sorsby. I've got on my lawyer hat. That means we're going to talk lawyer things. So yesterday, the court granted the temporary injunction, which gave Brendan Sorsby the ability to play football for Texas Tech this coming football season. I'm stunned. Now, back in May, I think it was on May 26th, I predicted that he would lose at trial. I knew that he was going to lose with the NCAA, which he did twice. Okay. I predicted he would lose at trial and that he likely knew that he would lose at trial. But following the Wayne Gretzky rule, you lose 100% of the shots that you don't take. And what did he lose in trying? That was what I thought, and I think that is what I said. Well, lo and behold, I was wrong. He took his shot and he got the injunction. Now, the court held that Sorsby will suffer a probable, imminent, and irreparable injury if he is unable to play football with Texas Tech. And what were some of the reasons? Because he wouldn't get the benefit of elite coaching that only playing D1 can provide. That he would build skills to help himself and the Texas Tech football team. And as an aside, he could then make an informed decision about the supplemental draft. So I'm looking at this thinking his irreparable harm is that he won't get the benefit of elite coaching. That's irreparable harm. Okay. Now, in order to get the temporary injunction, the court also had to say that he would likely win at trial with his claims for breach of contract, breach of duty of good faith, and breach of fiduciary duty. Now, I was not privy to, obviously, and there was no court transcript or record about what the court's views were on those arguments. We did not even hear what the arguments were that counsel made, but they were persuaded. The judge was persuaded. Okay, now, not only if the NCAA chooses to appeal and is victorious, they cannot go back retroactively and impose penalties on Sorsby if the ruling is subsequently overturned. But not only is Sorsby protected in the event that the ruling is overturned, so is Texas Tech, and so is anyone that competes against Texas Tech. So everybody gets this shield of coverage and protection. Okay. And of course, the injunction is conditioned on Sorsby following essentially the very same plan that he laid out for the NCAA in his request for reinstatement. So nothing more harsh, nothing more grueling. Essentially, he just said, this is what I want to do. And the court said, okay. And so to refresh your recollection, he agreed that he would not play in 2 games, which obviously would be the first 2 games against non-conference opponents. He'll go to counseling. He'll go to Gamblers Anonymous. He'll have treatment for anxiety and some other things. Essentially, counsel said, here are the things that we're willing to do. And the court said, okay. Okay. So I'm not the only one that's stunned. All of college football is stunned by this. College sports generally, okay? Because the court gave the metaphorical finger to the one rule that everybody in college sports could agree on. Don't bet on your own team. And not only did Sorsby do that once, he did it 40 times while he was at Indiana. He bet on Indiana football 40 times while he was at Indiana. Now, one of the reasons that I said that I knew that he would not be victorious was because his facts were worse than Hunter Decker. Remember, Hunter Decker was the Iowa State QB that back in 2021 lost his eligibility permanently because he bet on one Iowa State football game. One. Not 40, not 25, not 12. One game. Okay? And so I'm like, this is the exact same situation. The case is clear. The NCAA agreed with me, but for some reason the court did not. Now, the fallout was immediate. Okay. UGA in Nebraska said, we're not scheduling games with Texas Tech. Now, that might have been easy for them to say because they were unlikely to schedule games with Texas Tech anyway. But certainly, as Texas Tech is looking to upgrade the quality of football opponents that it plays, okay, it needs to get out of the Big 12 to do some upgrading, play teams outside of the Big 12. They were entertaining some overtures by USC and the Big 10 and some others. But Iowa, Nebraska, and Georgia's like, hey, we out. Don't even call us. Okay. And if we had anything scheduled, we're taking it off the schedule. The Big 10 is considering blocking Texas Tech from any play. And so that whole USC game is probably gone now if the Big 10 goes through. And the Big 12 leaders are also contemplating the same thing, just taking Texas Tech off the schedule. And not just for football, for all sports. To put Texas Tech on an island for all sports and said, if you're going to allow and advocate for players to be able to bet on their own teams while they are on the team, then y'all need to be over there and time out till y'all figure it out. Now, if the Big 12 leaders go through this, this has the most teeth, and this will most seriously isolate Texas Tech. I have no idea how this could occur or whether it could occur. I do know that the Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormack, is playing it close to the vest and is not commenting on the conversations that have been had with Big 12 leaders coming out of this ruling. Now, why is this crazy? There's a whole bunch of reasons why this is crazy, right? And you can think of a lot of them in your own mind. The easiest one is he bet on his own team and the court is like, yeah, we ain't got no issue with that. Okay. Now, Sorsby argued that because he had an addiction, that is why he should not be penalized. Okay. If you take that to its conclusion, they are also saying that people who gamble who are not addicted should suffer a consequence. But if you are addicted, you should not suffer a consequence. Okay? This is a crazy outcome. Clearly, if you are addicted, you should seek treatment for an addiction. But that doesn't mean that the behavior is consequenceless behavior, which is what this ruling has suggested. Because the facts were so clear cut here. Because Sorsby himself, through the pleadings, his attorneys acknowledged the gambling out loud, said, yeah, he did it. So there's no dispute of facts. Okay. No other athlete, regardless of sport, has received this treatment. And so it is unclear why Sorsby is entitled to get it. And certainly, this just guts any remaining enforcement authority that the NCAA has. What rule can they possibly enforce if the one rule that we all agree to, they can't enforce? It puts the NCAA in a very difficult position on a go-forward basis. Now, there's been some conversations about, well, what does the president of Texas Tech think? Why doesn't the president step in? Because clearly he must see that this is an erroneous ruling. No. Because before any of this happened, before they even filed for reinstatement, the Texas Tech president released a letter to the Texas Tech family or whatever they call themselves, okay, Texas Tech Nation community, and he advocated for Sorsby to be reinstated. And so for him not to receive a consequence. And the consequences that he was prepared to have Sorsby receive were the ones that he essentially got. You lay off a couple games, the ones that don't matter. You go to Gambling Anonymous, which he needs to do anyway. You need to stay in counseling, which he needs to do anyway. Okay, we support you. So the president's not going to say anything against this because he loves this result. Now, all this talk about the Protect College Sports Act, guess what? arguable whether that legislation would have done anything to prevent this result, because they're over there concerned about antitrust, but these claims were not brought in antitrust. They were brought in contract and a breach of fiduciary duty. So query whether this legislation or any of the other 24 pieces of legislation that have been introduced in the last 3 years would have done anything to prevent this behavior or this result. Okay, so the NCAA has already appealed the ruling, and we'll see if the court slow rolls the appeal. They've appealed on an expedited or emergency basis, but the court can take up to a year to do so. And if the court doesn't move quickly, it's a moot point. Okay, now, here's what I wonder. Brendan Sorsby's been through a lot since April. I doubt he's the same person that he was in April when all this came to light. I just wonder where his mind is right now. Just listening to and hearing and observing all the vitriol that is being cast his way because of this ruling. And whether he's going to be able to take all the boos, the bad acts, the things that are going to happen to him when he walks into opposing team stadiums, because he is going to get a reaction every single time. Every single time. And so either this will ennoble him and put this metaphorical chip on his shoulder, or it's going to break him down. So I wish the best for Brendan Sorsby as a person. I think he should not be playing college football anymore. I don't even know where we go from here. If the NCAA can't win this one, I don't know what they can win. Anyway, as always, let me know what you think.